Hey everybody, how's it going? I hope you're having a lovely day. Today I have a treat for you. We're going to be talking with John Bumstead from Roadkill Inc. Roadkill Inc. is a refurbishing company that buys and then resells refurbished devices and often provides the refurbishing. Whether you are looking for a $1,500 very high-spec MacBook or you're looking to buy an A1181 for $50, they typically have a solution for you. I had John on the channel several years ago and Amazon released a new policy where they stopped allowing normal sellers like him to sell used or refurbished MacBooks on their platform. It seems like Apple and Amazon entered a partnership that was beneficial to both of them, where Amazon would make more money and Apple would be able to ensure that when you go to their platform, it was just a little bit more difficult to purchase a used device where they make less money. So the way this worked was Amazon stopped allowing sellers like John to be able to sell on their platform if they were selling a used or refurbished device, even though John consistently had better seller feedback than the authorized sellers on this platform. And that continues to this very day. Now, it seems that eBay is following in their footsteps. eBay is no longer allowing sellers like John to list their items as refurbished on eBay. And further, if he wishes to join their program, he needs to sign an NDA before he even gets accepted into the program. So I'd like to talk about that with you today, because these platforms did something that I find to be particularly insidious. They didn't start out saying, we are going to be closed off to the world. They started out very open, where anybody could sell used or refurbished devices on their platform. And then once they gained market dominance, once the market had consolidated, once they were something like 50% of all online retail transactions, that's when they started kicking the people off of the platform that actually helped build that platform. And this is something that is a serious concern, because it falls under that umbrella, that overarching umbrella of freedom that I always talk about. Whether you're not able to unlock a bootloader on your phone, whether you are not able to fix the device that you own, or whether you are not able to then sell that device on that platform that you used to be able to sell that device on, whether they're making it harder for you to start a business doing so after eating and gobbling up all of the competition. Freedom is something that is being taken away from us one step at a time. And it is something that we need to be focused on and we need to be vigilant about if we hope to live in a future where we have that freedom back. That being said, enough of my rambling. Here's John Bumstead. Okay, so tell us the bad news here.
So I was selling on about a year ago, maybe a little less than a year ago, on eBay. I started getting these messages saying, hey, you're selling your products as refurbished using our refurbished category, and you're going to have to stop using the refurbished category and use the used category. So that was a little frustrating. It's like, well, I'm a refurbisher. I should be able to sell refurbished. Why am I being switched to the used category? So I kind of dragged my feet, and then after a while, I was just kind of forced to do it. So it's like, okay, whatever, used. But then I noticed there were people selling refurbished, and I was like, well, what's going on there? So I figured out there is an eBay refurbished program now. So I went on Google. I wanted to find some information, like, hey, do sellers like this program? What are the terms? Is it worth it? Whatever. What are the fees? But strangely, there was nothing. There was absolutely nothing. Like popular forums, you would think would have a lot of chatter, just no word whatsoever. And you Google, eBay refurbished, and you just get the eBay pages. So I was like, that's a little strange. But I thought I'd try to be optimistic, and so I applied for the program. And 2 weeks later, got an email, and it said, good news, we think you'd be a great candidate. But before we can talk about anything, the contract or the terms or anything at all, you have to sign this MNDA, Mutual Non-Disclosure Agreement. And it's a 3-year MNDA, and it prohibits you from talking about, the terms of the program, basically speaking about this for 3 years. And by the way, if you are not approved for the program, it's still a binding MNDA. So, so if you realize that if you talk to them and realize that it's a scam and a horrible thing, and you want to tell the world about it, too bad, you've already signed an MNDA and you're prohibited from talking about it. So so that was frustrating, and so yeah, what's happening, I think, is employees from Amazon. I know from a good source that employees from Amazon have come over to eBay And eBay is now betraying its values, its support of small sellers, and taking a very unimaginative approach to making more money, which is to essentially copy Amazon. They're creating a hierarchy. They're only having approved sellers sell, the refurbished product, and so they're creating essentially a silent juggernaut of approved, probably promoted sellers that they're going to pit against the normal sellers. So it's a thing too, like 80-20 rule. You go towards the big chunk that makes you money. So Amazon did that, and they made money. I think eBay is looking at Amazon saying, we could do that too. And unfortunately, what's going to happen is the small sellers that are providing a great service to the world, the small businesses, they are not necessarily the 80. They're probably the 20. They're probably making eBay less money than the big players. And it's frustrating. And the thing is, too, if this is a successful strategy for eBay, as it was for Amazon, then they're going to move further towards that. Like brand gating is all over Amazon now. Brand gating is the requiring of manufacturer approval to sell a product, which contradicts the first sale doctrine. The first sale doctrine is the law that says, as an owner of a product or of a device, you have the right to sell that device. But if the manufacturer and the marketplace, make an agreement, they can bypass the first sale doctrine. So you can barely sell anything on Amazon these days without manufacturer approval. So Amazon moved further towards that model. If eBay is betraying its values and is taking this approach and it's successful, there's no reason to believe that it wouldn't basically destroy the eBay that we know.
Yeah, I think for me, if they had started out saying we are a platform that only allows these particular people to sell these types of items on Amazon, I could completely understand it. But what they did is they waited until they had complete and utter market dominance in the field of being an online marketplace, an online platform for e-commerce, to then say, by the way, we're just going to kick all of these people that have been selling on the platform for 15 years off. Bye. And they waited until they had that market dominance to say these are the only people that are going to be able to sell these particular products on our platform. And the idea that eBay is going in the same way is scary because, again, it used to be there used to be a lot of different places that people would sell. I know a lot of people that have just stopped bothering with their own e-commerce websites and other platforms simply because 99% of their sales at some point in time are coming from eBay and Amazon. And one of the things that I spoke about in this channel back in 2013, and when I personally left eBay and said, screw this, I'd rather try to build something on my own, the biggest problem with it is you don't own your success. You don't own your brand. All of your advertising, all of your ranking, everything that you've earned from positive feedback, customers, they are shopping on eBay. They're not shopping with John Bumstead. They're not shopping with Rossmann Repair Group. They're going into eBay and picking one of the first two things that pop up. So if you're going to spend like 10 or 15 years of your life building a brand, I highly suggest people build it on their own. It's going to be harder I remember back in the day, I would get 200 sales off eBay and 13 sales off of my own website. eBay is a great, fast kick, just having 6 pots of coffee before your exercise at the gym. But the coming down from that high, it really, really is going to kill you. And at some point, you are going to get kicked off of this train because, in my opinion, eBay and Amazon are not focused on the small seller. They are more than happy to use you to bootstrap their success, and the moment they have it, kick you off the platform in favor of Tim Cook whispering in their ear, hey, don't let these people sell. And one of the things that I'd like to dig into with you, and I've dug into on this channel over the past 10 years, manufacturer certified refurbished is not necessarily good. I mean, we have on this channel, with the iPhone 6 Plus, if you got a phone with a bad Touch IC and you brought it to Apple for that $149 program, they gave you another phone where, the Broadcom and Cumulus chip were going to pop off the board again, within a few months. If you had a A1398 MacBook from 2012 with a U8900 graphics chip issue, they weren't resoldering that on the board nicely. They were putting a little piece of rubber in there and just hoping that it would smack it against the board just long enough for it to continue working. There are countless examples on my channel of where the manufacturer refurbishing is, in my opinion, complete and utter dog shit. So the idea that these should be the only people selling out of some sort of trust and safety, or to ensure that the users have a consistent and quality experience. I mean, anybody that's gotten a phone refurbished by Asurion that's seen the gap between the back panel and that knows that that is just fundamentally not the case.
Sure. Yeah. No, it's definitely not about quality. All you have to do is go on Amazon and look at the renewed. Renewed is the program of accepted sellers who have to show proof of 2.5 million a quarter in inventory purchased from approved sellers. So that's the barrier to entry. But all you have to do is look at their feedback to know that what Amazon didn't improve the quality. They still have horrible feedback ratings. They still have...
kudos to them for leaving that up, by the way.
Yeah, I guess I could just do away with it. But yeah, it proves that there's just no quality improvement. And even the eBay refurbished, I've looked at a lot of the sellers there, and they're not necessarily they don't necessarily have good feedback. It's really, certification is almost always a scam. I hate to say it. It's almost always a pay-to-play scheme. What certification does is it promises it promises a benefit, and then it greenwashes that benefit and tells the world this is the benefit. But at the end of the day, it's about consolidation and power and money. And if you buy into the program, you get money, and so people get kind of sucked in, and they know it's a scam. They know that it's not delivering the thing that it promises, but they kind of weigh it out and say, well, I'm getting this income stream based on this thing, the certification, so I'm willing to just not stand up and talk about the fact that it's this predatory practice that completely betrays what it claims to be.
Yeah, particularly if you signed any of these NDAs. I remember when Apple released their independent repair provider program, there was one gentleman that was brave enough to break his NDA. I mean, he was saying, if I want, he wasn't able to get parts and stock them. He had to have the information of the device. So if you had a customer walk in and say, can you do this in 20 minutes? I could say yes. He'd have to tell you it takes a week. There were so many parts that were not available. There was so much that it took him like 3 to 6 months just to be able to get a working ID with the program. And, it's easy to have a service where you don't care about your technicians or whether or not they have a usable experience if they've all signed an NDA and can't talk about it, which is what you see with so many of these programs. Yeah, and when you say about the quality, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
So I remember, in 2013, 2014, getting my A+. This is where I learned how many FireWire 400 devices you could daisy chain, because that was very relevant information for computer repair back then, so that I could become a Lenovo Authorized repair center. That was my goal. And when I got the A+, I signed up with the system and everything. They said, okay, cool. By the way, if you want to be an Authorized repair center, you have to purchase over $60,000 I forget it was per month or per quarter, of our products. Like, why? I mean, I want to fix. I'm a repair shop. I'm not a mass distributor, but apparently I need to become one in order to be an authorized distributor. Now, if I must purchase $60,000 per month or per quarter, I forget, it's been almost 10 years, but if I have to buy $60,000 a month of this stuff, when you walk in the store as somebody looking for a repair, where do my incentives now lie? Is my incentive going to be, let me make this thing work again for you? Or, crap, if I have to stay in this program, I got to buy $60K of stuff. Let me get you into a new ThinkPad X1 Carbon. A lot of ordinary consumers don't even understand that a lot of the certification requirements are not necessarily around you being a top-tier repair shop. It's not about you knowing all the proper protocols and procedures and how to open the devices. It's that you spend a certain amount of money each month with the company, which fundamentally perverts your incentives to the point where you're incentivized to sell the customer a new one rather than have them fix the old one. And I think if most customers actually knew what was necessary to become an authorized repair or refurbishing center, they'd go, wait, This has nothing to do with quality at all. It's a racket. And it's why I've been said on my website for over a decade, proud to be unauthorized, proud to be uncertified. Not because it means we know less, but rather it's the opposite. We know more because we spend more time in repairs because we're incentivized to.
Yeah, you remind me of my previous life in like IT. I was an MCSE, a Microsoft Certified Systems Engineer, and I was so excited to go to this training, this like week-long boot camp. I was like, I'm going to learn this stuff. This is great. And literally, this boot camp costs like $5,000. And literally, what they do is they put you in a room full of computers, and you sit there and you look at you go through questions and answers, and it's literally the questions and answers for the test. There are like 7 tests in the MCSE. So you sit there and you study the questions and answers for an hour. When you're ready, you raise your hand. They take you to another room where there's the actual test. And you take the test in about 7 minutes because you know all the questions and all the answers. And then you pass the test. And then you go back to the first room and load up the next module and do the same thing. So like you can get an MCSE, which is supposed to be this super high level, advanced certification, in a day, just by memorizing and going into the other room. And it was just, that was one of my first indications that it's just an absolute scam. And and the only reason my company wanted me to be an MCSE was because you had to have MCSEs on hand for some benefit, or to be able to put a logo in your window, or it's just a joke. But yeah, on the silence issue, what really concerns me is, like, with the Amazon situation, like, I made a lot of noise. I got in a lot of articles. The FTC contacted me, didn't end up doing any good, but there was a lot of noise made. A lot of people heard about the situation, at least. But if I had signed an MDNA with Amazon, I wouldn't have been able to talk about it. I wouldn't have been able to do anything at all, and Amazon would have done all this shady stuff without the public ever hearing about it. And similarly, eBay could be doing shady stuff right now. Just the fact that they have an MDNA makes we have to be suspicious. What are they doing exactly that they need this? So that's what's scary to me. And I really worry too that one thing I really hate is forced arbitration agreements. Most people don't realize, but pretty much everyone has signed an arbitration agreement with every company they have absolutely anything to do with, meaning that they cannot sue those companies in federal court. So think about that. Any company you have anything to do with, you cannot you've given away your right to sue them in federal court. So I'm worried that silence is the next step. Arbitration worked. The companies love that. I'm worried that they're just going to build. There's this idea, this theory of contract formation. The longer you deal with a company, the more times you click OK on agreements, OK, until they just have this legal arsenal against you, and you're weakened the longer you deal with the company. And I'm worried that silence, if they realize that these MNDAs are beneficial, every company is going to just start doing that. And if it's not talked about, then we're not even going to know that it's happening because it is silence.
Yeah, and like one of the things that with my company, I have no NDA involved. So if I decide that I want to start reflowing graphics chips instead of replacing them, if we stop ultrasonic machines just to get them in and out the door faster when doing liquid damage repairs, one of my employees is going to be able to start his own company and then showcase and demonstrate all the crap that we did wrong while he was working here. That kind of keeps me honest. If I had all of them silenced, it would be easy for me to say, take all these cost-cutting measures, knowing that I can legally destroy you if you decide to actually start your own company. So that existing makes me a lot more skeptical of anything in that program, because I think one of the things that's going to be rolled out as the explanation for why this exists is we want customers to trust our program. We want people to know when they buy an eBay refurbished device, they are getting it from somebody certified. And I think the response from us, the chorus needs to be, if this is such a good program, why are all of your sellers put under an NDA so that they cannot talk about anything? How can we trust people that are silenced? How can we trust people that have, a sock in their mouth? And I think that needs to be the response to all of this. Because when it comes to us, like if you screw over your employees can start their own business. Your employees can talk to the press. Your employees can do YouTube videos saying, here's what happened when I worked for John. Like, I don't know, he was using, like knockoff A1181 inverter boards or something. but they're not going to do that. Now, just to like steelman eBay's argument here, Amazon said you can't sell at all. eBay is only saying you have to use a different category. Is used versus refurbished really that different in the customer's mind? Because to be refurbished, it means somebody had to have used it and then it broke and then it got fixed. Used simply means that somebody used it. It doesn't necessarily connotate a repair. So is that really that bad in contrast to Amazon, who's saying you just can't sell shit at all?
Yeah, it is bad. I mean, used suggests damaged goods. It suggests maybe it hasn't been tested, maybe it hasn't been wiped, maybe it's not complete, maybe I found it in the back of a closet, and there's the juxtaposition of used versus refurbished. So, and the consumer knows there's used and refurbished. So, if this was really a great company, if they were really doing everything right, why wouldn't it be refurbished? So it's inherently a step below. And not only that, but you have eBay out there promoting or advertising the program, the eBay refurbished program. You have quality products, high quality, just all of these attributes with the refurbished program. So they're basically advertising against the used category. They're saying buy refurbished because it's good for all of these reasons. Well, what does that mean? That means used is not those things. So yeah, it is. It's a slap in the face to all refurbishers and all sellers who are doing a good job but don't want to throw away their right to free speech.
So I want to toss this back to a super chat question that came from Kevin. Between eBay fees and the lack of seller protections, it's incredibly difficult for a small seller to get started. Any advice for someone who just wants to keep machines out of the landfill?
Yeah, electronics recyclers, there are thousands of them in this country. They all scrap, they scrap millions of viable devices. Because a recycler is playing a Tetris game inside a warehouse. It's a big space, stuff is coming in, and they have to get rid of it before the place fills up. So their primary concern is to get rid of stuff. They don't care if it goes cheap. They care more about you being a service provider that helps them remove big chunks of stuff from the recycler. So I recommend, I've always spent a lot of my time teaching people to replicate my business, because there's room for thousands of people to buy broken stuff or even working stuff from recyclers, refurbish it, sell it, and make a living and be independent. And there's so much stuff in recyclers that just doesn't, that deserves to go back out into the world, but the recycler just does a low-level math calculation and determines that it's not worth their time, and it gets scrapped. It drives me nuts. Money grows on trees in this country, and not only does it grow on trees, but it falls off the trees and rots before anyone picks it up. Because there's just so much opportunity out there I see in recyclers that is just not taken advantage of.
I've personally failed many times with their whole recycling thing. I wind up always buying a lot of pre-sorted through garbage from somebody where it's been through, they say, oh yeah, we haven't looked at any of this yet. And then I'll look at it, and every single one will have the BIOS chip soldered on backwards. Every single one will have the CPU and the GPU reflowed. Every single one will have gone through an ultrasonic cleaner with Windex at probably 90 Celsius for 2 hours. And then I'll call them up on, it's like, oh, and they'll be like this little, you can just hear the smirk on the other side of the phone. So I've moved away from it, but that's because of my own personal failings there. I would add to that, don't see yourself as an eBay seller. See yourself as a seller. One of the things we were talking about yesterday at Fudo, the new organization I work for, is you shouldn't see yourself as a YouTube content creator. We want the future to be you see yourself as a content creator that publishes to an open database of many different platforms, and YouTube just so happens to be one of them. Don't see yourself as an Amazon seller or an Amazon refurbisher. See yourself as a refurbisher. So again, when I started, doing the stuff with Rossmann Supply back a decade ago, I could get 200 to 800 sales a day on eBay and Amazon and 13 to 40 on my own website. And one of the big mistakes I made is I focused a little bit too much on the eBay and Amazon side of things because I saw, oh my God, look at all the sales, without realizing, wait a second, 3% PayPal, 6.5% eBay, final value fee, listing fee, this thing, that, and the other. And also, 99% of my chargebacks and claims were from eBay, not my customers that found me through my website that actually appreciated me. And like the big mistake I made is if I had simply put like 1/10 of the effort that I put into eBay into actually building my own online store, building my own presence, building the brand of Rossmann rather than the brand of Amazon and eBay, I would have been so much better off for it. And in 2013, when I just kind of switched and turned off that idea, I'm going to build eBay and Amazon's brand with advertising my repair services and my parts I'm selling there, I'm going to build my own. It took a much more time to get to the point where I had that much business, but it was mine. I owned it. Nobody could take it away from me, and people knew who I was rather than knowing who eBay and Amazon were. So even though it's going to take you a lot more time building up your own site, building up your own brand, I would say if you just put the time and effort into that, it's far more worth it.
Yeah, I totally agree, and I feel like I should. I have a website and I sell stuff there, and I should put more time into that. But it is like you said, hard, and it's kind of like telling people like, okay, if you want to fly to Europe, you have to buy an airplane. It's like
I get it. I get it.
It's not something that everyone can do. It is worth doing. I mean, it's one of those things in business. They say like it's hard to not just do the day-to-day stuff and then also on top of that improve your business some each day. It's hard to add that little, okay, I'm going to spend an hour a day improving my business. And this falls into that category. Let's build the brand. Let's build the website. But it is hard. And there are a lot of forces that kind of go against being able to do that. And like you said, it is so easy to sell on eBay and Amazon. That's the thing, especially Amazon. You find the thing you have, you tell it, oh, I have 20 of that. And then you wake up the next morning and you have sales. And the stuff sells for 40% more than you could get somewhere else, most likely. So it's easy to see why businesses are just all in on that model.
It's very difficult to spend several years of time to become the type of site where people say, don't worry about what the site looks like, or don't worry about this, that, or the other. Buy from that guy. You want to buy from that guy. But what I'm telling everybody to do is become that guy or girl that people want to buy from regardless of everything else, where everybody's tapping them on the shoulder and saying, no, go here. Don't fuck Amazon, fuck eBay. But it is difficult. But the one thing I think people need to understand about these sites is it's kind of like what's happening with Uber, where they'll say, well, imagine if we have self-driving cars and self-driving taxis. They're essentially putting in work and effort into a future where you don't exist. And I think people who are using these platforms need to understand very clearly that these platforms are working towards a future where you don't exist. They're not your friends, they're not your partners, and they're not there to see you succeed. And it's just a question of whether or not you are going to be kicked off now, a year from now, or 5 years from now, but it's going to happen. So you have to have that off-ramp ready. You have to be working on that off-ramp so that when something finally happens, you're not completely screwed.
Yeah, and I actually sell most of what I sell wholesale to existing customers off of, got most of them on eBay, but then have long-term relationships with them. So that's been, the wholesale retail split has been what has saved me. When I was selling on Amazon and then got kicked off, I sort of retreated to selling wholesale. A lot of people didn't have that mechanism, so they just they didn't have those customers built up, so they went out of business. But even selling wholesale, it's like I'm selling to people who are selling on eBay. I'm selling to people who are selling on Amazon.
Yeah, so at the end of the day,
we're only a degree of separation or two away from these marketplaces. And the thing is, too, Amazon is literally half of the online marketplaces for the sale of all things. Literally, probably even more. That statistic's 5 years old. So I don't know. I see that as a problem, and that's growing. eBay's only like 5%, I think. But yeah, I don't know. I just find that incredibly disturbing.
Yeah, again, for me, and I know I'm repeating myself here, but like the thing that disturbs me the most is that they didn't start out like this. They
right.
started out with the idea of it being very open. They invited as many people onto the platform as they could. You know, encourage, buy here. Don't go to those other shady websites or this, that, or the other, or small sellers with their own little stores. Shop here. And once they got big enough to have 50% of the marketplace, that's when they kicked everybody off of the platform. Once they already had that customer base, and I think there's something fundamentally insidious to that kind of sneaky business plan.
Yeah, Amazon is an ecosystem. There are the way I describe it. There are goldfish and there are piranhas. Like, and you can't put a piranha in the goldfish bowl and not expect the goldfish to get eaten. So there's brand gating on Amazon. There are little players. There are manufacturers. There are distributors. There are refurbishers. Like, and everyone's in there and everyone's fighting with each other. And it's a very sort of dangerous, predatory environment. And one thing I'm afraid of right now is because eBay is creating this tiered system. It's probably going to be the same. The silent refurbishers are going to be probably promoted above the used sellers. I'm imagining, and again, we don't really know because it's all silent. So we're relegated to the realm of rumors and hearsay because we just don't know. We don't know what the agreement looks like. It might not be as bad as I'm imagining.
Yeah, but it's hard to imagine it not going in this direction given everything else.
Right, right.
I can't see, I don't see where any of these companies over the past 5 to 10 years, whether we're talking about right to repair, whether we're talking about the ability to unlock the bootloader of your own device, fix your own device, unlock your device, or even just sell it. I haven't seen any of these companies move towards a more open infrastructure where it's like, yeah, let's let more people in, let's have more freedom. And again, this really just seems to be on one small piece under this large umbrella of removing freedom from people as time goes on when it comes to their technology, whether it's, again, whether you own it, what you can do with it, or whether you can sell it. Sure. And it sucks.
Yeah. And one thing about eBay too, I don't see eBay as just another website, just another marketplace. It is worldwide. It is so big that it has the majority of the eyeballs on it, at least for certain products. And there's a value in that. Like if it, let's say eBay disappeared and it fractured off into thousands of different marketplaces, I think I don't think that's a good thing. I think it's a good thing for there in a lot of ways to be a place where everyone is. It allows for specialization. I'm in the retro community, which is an amazing community, and there are thousands of small businesses that are just one person who creates a 3D printed, little part of a 40-year-old computer that's not manufactured anymore, and that person has a business. Or they do an accelerator card or a power supply replacement for any given thing. And largely, people like that are able to exist because of eBay. So, yeah, we should all have our own websites and stuff like that. But I really think functionally it makes sense for the world to have something where we can all come together.
I 100% agree with you there. I'm just saying, I think for self-preservation, people should be working on building their own thing. I do like the idea of there being one place where you could search for everything. You have a reputation system that people can trust. You have easy system for sorting. You realize that when you search here, you're going to find literally everything there is to find on that particular product. That's very useful. It just sucks that there's a high likelihood of you being abused and then kicked off of the system entirely after you've put your blood, sweat, and tears and life's work into it. And I would love to still have been an eBay or an Amazon seller. I would love to still be pushing my repair services there, pushing my products for sale there. It's just I realized that if I continue doing that, if I had continued doing that on Amazon, I would just, if I had went that route versus let me build my brand, let me post videos, let me build my website, let me build my name, I mean, I would have been kicked off 4 years ago. And so it's like, I would like the idea of having an online marketplace that's actually open to all of these things. It just one of the things that Ian Clark mentioned in an interview I did with him a few days ago, that we went in this really weird we went in this weird direction with the internet where, we had this potential for everything to be open, but we went for this, I guess, client server architecture in this very specific way where you have one company that owns this platform. So everything is a walled garden. Apple has their own walled garden, Google has their own walled garden, Amazon has their own walled garden, eBay has their own walled garden. They all come with their own payment system. They all have their own reputation system. They all have their own seller and you don't own any of this. You don't own your reputation on eBay. That's one delete button away from being taken away from you. You don't own your ability to sell on eBay. That's somebody else. So you don't really own your identity. You don't really have a sovereign identity when you use any of these platforms. I would love for something like this to exist that's just not owned by eBay. But that's, I think at this point, kind of a pipe dream. And it goes back to one of the things you said, which is you actually had people from the FTC calling you with what happened to Amazon. And I mean, are they calling you now?
No. They interviewed me, and then made a lot of noise in the media, and they put together that report that I'm sure you've gone over, and no, there's nothing.
Yeah,
and the administration changed, and it's a bunch of new people, and some of them are really good people, but yeah, I don't know. I'm very frustrated with them because there was so much low-hanging fruit as far as antitrust stuff.
Yeah, and they talked a good game about it when Biden got elected. When I saw Lena Khan, which was kind of like an activist-ish kind of person, appointed to the FTC, it's like, wow.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, this is not a joke. This is not lip service. When you read her papers, this is somebody that would like to give the middle finger to every single one of these companies, and nothing. And I think that's the part that is that's incredibly frustrating. When you look back in the 90s, what Microsoft was getting in trouble for, the things that they were getting in trouble for in the 90s, you bundled a web browser with the product, you did this kind of small potatoes type of stuff here. And now we live in a world where the entire online e-commerce, 50% of online e-commerce is one company. You have so many things that go on right now. Google owns so many elements of your data, so many elements of your life, and there's just crickets when it comes to any sort of antitrust enforcement whatsoever. When you look at what Microsoft got in trouble for in the 90s, and then you look at what companies get away with in the 2020s, it's just completely insane to me. I could understand the argument that you should leave them alone. I could also understand the argument that antitrust enforcement needs to be applied. It's just crazy to me when you look 25 years ago versus now, what you got in trouble for versus what you get away with.
Yeah, and when the government doesn't act, it's essentially approval, And but it's just sad because the FTC is the government mechanism that is supposed to help the general public when the general public is being harmed, and it's just not doing that. I tried to sue eBay and or not eBay, Amazon and Apple over the agreement, and so it didn't work out. It was going to be a class action suit, but it turned out it couldn't really. It didn't really comply with the requirements for class action, and one of the problems was that I had signed an arbitration agreement with Amazon, so the suit would have had to have been against Apple themselves, which weakened the lawsuit. So anyway, they threw out the class action as an option, and the law firm said, well, we'd be happy to do a private lawsuit, but you'd have to front us $1 million. And that would just be kind of to start out, like that's not the whole thing. That's just just to get the ball rolling. So clearly, and they describe these big companies as basically they create a Rubik's cube that's designed to be unsolvable, and it's true. You can't do class action because of arbitration. You can't just sue them because no one has $1 million, and then the FTC does nothing. So what do you do? I like what you said. I saw your interview with Ian Clark, and that really got me thinking. And one of the other options is a technology solution. So if we had a distributed marketplace with a distributed reputation system and a distributed payment system, maybe there's something there. But it's hard not to feel kind of hopeless about it all.
It is. It's like the problem that we have is even when we do find people that actually want to contribute towards these types of projects, even as they're doing the work, and it's good work, you could just tell that like a small part of them is just hopelessly black-pilled, that there's just no point. Not going to name any particular developers in here, but yeah, there's been times where, you know, like you give somebody money, they're actually developing something that's really, really cool, and they just feel like, yeah, this is amazing work. I think it's 100% going to succeed. My product's going to work, and yeah, I'm still going to get steamrolled by Google or Amazon anyway. It's like, what? Like, it's like, you're actually doing good work and you think this. Don't say that out loud. Like, at least now, like, wait for me to leave the room or something. But yeah, like, would you say, you know, again, the average person does not have $1 million for a lawsuit. You signed an arbitration agreement. You know, there is somebody that you involuntarily hand over 30 to 45% of your earnings to each year that's supposed to do something about that. And I think that part of the frustration is when they take that and they do nothing. Is there anything else you want to say before I close out the show?
Well, first of all, don't sign the agreement if you're an Amazon seller, if you're an Amazon refurbisher, because you're throwing away your right to free speech. You know, any frustrations you have with the program, with eBay, with, you know, if you witness things that they're doing that you think are wrong, you're throwing away your right to say anything about that. And they're building a silent army. And it gets worse the more people sign up for it. So we have to resist it, which is a shame. I'd like to, you know, be selling refurbished on eBay. I think I could benefit from that and they could benefit from me. But, you know, I just have to push back on that. So I would just say we have to counteract the silence with words, with noise, you know. So I would say this is an issue. You got to tell people about it. You got to spread the word that this is happening, because there is a black hole that is eBay, and that black hole is just going to get bigger and is going to become all consuming. And not only that, but we don't want other companies to get the idea that this is the way to go, because if they just decide that it works, they will. Every major company out there will do this if they decide that there is a benefit.
Yeah, one of the things I say often is when Apple does something, if you don't like it and you don't say something, you should, because even if you don't use their products, because everybody else will copy. And people would say, no, that's not true. And then you see, you know, Samsung flagship with no micro SD card slot, no headphone jack, no lock bootloader, and it's like, yeah. One thing I would suggest people do is, you know, let the people at the FTC know, like knock on their door, email them, call them, bother them. I mean, that you pay them, you are their customer, and they should be providing you with at least pretend to provide you with some level of service here when something like this happens.
Definitely.
So thank you so much for taking the time. I really appreciate it. It's always good talking with you.
Yeah, thank you, and thank you for everything you're doing out there. It's really exciting to see you. The next phase of your existence unfold. So
I hope for my 30s to kick the crap out of my 20s. Yes. Thank you so much. And
it will.
Best of luck.